I have a question for my viewers. How do you go about building a Magic the Gathering deck? Good day to you, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to discuss methods of deck building, a first in a series of videos that I'm cooking up. This stems from some offhand comments thrown around on social media over the weekend that I saw, and it made me think about how I go about building decks. So have you ever really paid attention to how you go about building a Magic the Gathering deck? Likely not, especially for enfranchised players that have developed their own methods. But how many ways are there to build Magic the Gathering decks? To me, there are 4 distinct styles of deck building, often blending the styles together, which we'll discuss here. The first style, and this is where I often come into most of my commander deck builds, is the collection diver. Regardless of format, what I like to do is I go through my collection once I have a deck idea, start rooting around in the cards, build them up into a big pile, and then start working from there. Maybe you found a new commander that was just printed and you have an idea, and then you start rooting around your collection and go, okay, I have these cards for it. Eventually, you'll have a big stack of cards like this pile here that I'm showing. This is from my pandemic pool format that I use to build decks like these. Oftentimes too many to fit within the deck most of the time, and that's fine, because then you're going to go back through the stacks, sort them out, make your cuts, and ending up with a final deck. However, if you can't quite stop there, then you'll end up kind of in the next category, what I call the refiner. This is the evolution of the collection diver. Rather than being content to simply root through your collection, build a deck out of what you have, and go with it, you like to improve your decks and see what can be done about it after you've already done a lot of the legwork, build a deck, and realize it could be better. This usually depends on the format you're building for, and then you go out searching for resources. This can be other websites that offer up deck lists to see what others have built. This can be videos making recommendations for decks, or maybe gameplay videos from which you glean information and use that to select your cards and add them into the deck. This is also where some players are when they settle on a deck, only want to add cards to that deck, and they're not going to plan on building any other decks, and they just add things that interest them as sets are released. Pre-constructed deck players for Commander also can slot into this style, as most often they'll buy a precon, remove any of the lousy cards from it, and then upgrade the slots over time or with things that they think would be better for the deck. The third category, and I find myself falling into this one when a new Commander comes out that I like, is the researcher. This is similar to what the refiner is, but the difference here is the researcher wants to build from scratch, knows what they want to build around by seeing whatever cards they have, but they don't actually have the deck done already. They don't have a starting point. They just have a concept to work with. So instead of half building the deck with what they have and filling in the gaps, they start by researching cards that fit in with their ideas. For example, once more, a new commander. So like when a new commander comes out, this is where I will find myself. I'll see a cool commander I want to build around, but don't have a lot of the cards. So I kind of start digging around and say what would go with this commander and fit the themes of that commander. An example of this is when I wanted to build around Chatterfang Squirrel General. A bunch of cards came out in Modern Horizons 2 that supported squirrels, along with him as the commander, and I had a few older stuff in boxes to go with it, like Nut Collector, but I knew I didn't have everything I wanted for it, so I had to research and see where I wanted to go with it, rather than blindly buying a bunch of cards that I may not even use in the end, which isn't really feasible if you don't want to go broke. Like the refiner, you're going to watch videos, you're going to hit the websites, and you might look at what others have done, but you're not just going to copy someone else's deck. You're going to use that as a starting basis, tweak it to your own will, what cards you want to play, and then you're going to work with this to create your deck. The fourth category of deck builder is what I like to call the copycat, also known as the net decker. I don't like to use the term net decker. It has very nasty connotations, so with those connotations aside, the copycat doesn't come up with their own deck lists, themes, plans, or they just simply want a deck without spending their time researching, planning, or digging into the deck on their own and play the deck. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. Maybe you just don't have the time, so you copy a deck, buy the cards for it, you just want to play, so that's what you do. Some people, for lack of a better word, suck. And I'm not saying they suck as a person or whatever. I'm saying they suck at deck building. Not everyone has a talent for it, and some are very format dependent. I can put together some pretty powerful commander decks on my own and some decent standard decks, but I am terrible at building for Modern and Pioneer. I don't play those formats enough, and it shows when I try to build those decks. I have to look at other decks that other people have built, pull ideas for them to have a starting place, because I like to mess around with fun cards, jank cards, and other things a little too much, and it messes with my playstyle in those formats. In the end, whether it's time, skill, or other reasons, there's nothing wrong with copying a deck, but I don't think it's a great thing when it's the only thing you do, as deck construction is a big part of this game, and if you learn to improve your deck building skill, you're going to improve as a player as well. As for myself, I use methods from all of these depending on what kind of deck I'm building. I've learned over the years that I have to put all these different styles into play depending on what kind of deck I'm wanting to build. If I'm building for Commander, then I start researching by diving into my collection, and then I go back and I use research and refining techniques to fill in the gaps. For Pioneer, Modern, and other things that I want to try to mess with, I have to actually go look at other deck lists, copy them, and then I start switching into the refining mode and go, okay, I want to try these cards. What can I take out? And I start subbing cards in and out to see what I can do. The combinations and possibilities are only limited by what you really want to do in the game. So what do you think, my viewers? What kind of deck builder are you? Tell me what kind of deck builder you identify as in the comments. I would love to know. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.